Peace be with you. Some of you may be watching this before coming over to church to receive communion in your cars between 10 and 11 this Sunday morning. If today is like last Sunday, some of you are watching it at other times as well. Whenever you've taken a break to spend some time like this, I give thanks that we can be in touch in this way. Last week, someone suggested that we send out the scripture texts for today in advance. They are linked in the Trinity Church News email we sent yesterday, and also posted in the PDF on the website. If you haven't seen the readings yet, you can find them now. When I first looked at the readings for today, I was struck in a not entirely pleasant way by the fact that we'd been given the 23rd Psalm. It is perhaps the best known of all 150 Psalms. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. It is also the most common psalm for services of burial. I had recently seen in the news an image of Italian military trucks transporting victims of the pandemic out of Bergamo, one of the towns in Italy's hardest hit region to the north around Milan. Perhaps you saw that image as well. And later on, in the way that emotions don't always make sense in chronological time, I had one of those moments you sort of feel in the gut. I just had this sense, what if that happened where we live? And I think that somehow seeing the 23rd Psalm, this psalm chosen by so many families in bereavement over the course of my ordained life, somehow caused a kind of associative flashback. But then, really seeing the text, I realized that we are given Psalm 23 precisely for such times. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for you are with me, your rod and your staff, they comfort me. That's the version in our current Book of Common Prayer. You can probably say with me right now the same verse in the King James Version, the one everyone knows best. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Do you feel the shepherd's presence as you hear those words, as you meditate on them? I do. That's why the text is so beloved, I think. That's why it's chosen again and again by people facing loss, by people facing death. Psalm 23 reminds us that God is with us precisely in times like these. In John's Gospel today, the account of the blind man plays with the notions of what it means to be blind and to see. John loves the analogy of seeing and not seeing and the related metaphors of light and darkness. But what is it to see in John's Gospel? What is the light? Well, to borrow a phrase, it's complicated, but not that complicated. Simply put, Jesus is the light by which we see. By which we see. As one hymn has it, in him there is no darkness at all. The night and the day are both alike. We know by the light of Christ the mercy, the grace, the loving kindness of God, what in Hebrew is called chesed. And we know by the light of Christ the sheer power of God's mercy, God's grace, God's loving kindness to carry our burdens with us and to bring light to our darkest moments. The Lord is my shepherd. The last verse of the psalm in the prayer book version is this: surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Do you see how the text speaks both to our everyday lives and also to life eternal? Every day, it says, there is goodness and mercy for which to give thanks. Come what may, we can be thankful every day of our lives. And what is our end? To be with God. That lightens my world. Yesterday, my wife Mary and I went for a walk, 2 walks actually, each time with our golden retriever. I should say golden retriever /lab/something, Bella. The first time we walked out of the rectory down our front sidewalk and turned to the right, and I was surprised to see daffodils suddenly in bloom in clumps of warm yellow right in front of my own garden. Uh, they, they couldn't have been there yesterday. And then across the street, the forsythia bushes were an even brighter yellow. It was as if the 30-foot long bank of them had somehow conspired to come into color all at once just to surprise me. And then I began to see more in front of our own Trinity Church, if you've driven by, right in front of our double door entrance. And then also again across Chester Road and up that grassy slope to the right, cherry trees were in various stages of bud and bloom, as if they had agreed ever so politely to take turns at being glorious. Life and beauty were all around me, and I had begun to see. Well, the second walk came late in the afternoon. It had been a good day, but a full one after a string of long ones. Your vestry members, I want you to know, gave 4 hours yesterday to video conferencing with me in lieu of going on the retreat we had had to cancel. Mind you, I was grateful for the time with them, and they were terrific. In fact, at one point between sessions, I wrote to our new rector's warden, Kathy Gardner, I like our group. But, as many of you know from your own work this past week, video conferencing can take a toll. Now, afterwards, I should have jumped up and gotten moving, but I didn't. I stayed in a chair. I'll show you this chair right here, ostensibly to get more work done. Well, eventually Mary came and roused me, and by then I felt cold and a little sleepy and a little grumpy. It was just kind of hard to get up and get moving. And when I did get outside, the sun was waning and it had lost some of its power to warm. But gradually, by the end of the walk, I felt my body becoming my own again. It was that moving itself had warmed me up. I actually felt brighter. So, what am I trying to say? We are meant to see with the eyes of faith. We are meant to walk by faith, not merely by mortal sight, but that kind of seeing doesn't happen all at once. We awaken to it over time as if drawn from one burst of color to another and another until we begin to see more of the glory and beauty and splendor of God like a field spreading out before us. And it doesn't happen without a little bit of effort. We have to exert ourselves a bit. We have to get up out of our metaphorical chairs and get the spiritual blood moving to feel the warmth of God's presence easing our spirits like the warmth of sun on tired muscles and bones. Do you see what I mean? It makes me think of another hymn. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found. Was blind, but now I see. Thanks be to God for all those in our lives who get us moving and help us see. I give thanks for you. Stay safe. Be well. God bless you with the eyes of faith and the warm presence of the shepherd.